Hey everyone, this is going to be the video to show you how to make the Reddit bot for the plant as well as buying the right materials and setting it up properly. Alright, so first thing you want to do is download Node.js. Node.js is a library basically that is the backbone of the code. Without Node.js, I wouldn't be able to do any of the things that the bot does. So download one of these, it'll, go into a folder, be on your desktop, the usual. And then you download Visual Studio Code. You can Google both of these by looking up Node.js and then looking up Visual Studio Code. I use Visual Studio Code, and I suggest you guys do too, so you can follow along in this video the way I do it. Alright, next we are going to open Visual Studio Code. And I'm actually going to quickly make a new folder. Let's call it botx2. Alright, so we are going to file, open, and then to open your folder, you go to open folder, and then I look for this, I name it bot example 2, I'm going to select it, and then, once that's open, this is the welcome window, you can X that out, close in full screen. What you do from here is you do view, integrated terminal, that's view, up here, if it will let me, integrated terminal. And then since you downloaded Node, it's on your computer, you do sorry, it's in caps, npm init. And from there, you just press enter a bunch of times until you get to enter, 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 enter. And then it wants you to type yes. And then once you do that, you got a package.json file with exactly what you want. And then you make a new file, which is your main JavaScript file, which you are going to save as index.js because that is what the file is reading. It's reading from, if you look at the package.json, you can change it, but as of now it's reading from index.js, as that's the main file. Alright, from here we are going to go to Chrome, and then we're going to go back here. Alright, so once you're done with that, you are going to go to GitHub, and I've created a repository called Take Care of Our Plants in index.js, which basically has all the code in it that I use for the bot with, like, of course you have to put in like plant name and stuff like that. Um, let me just check. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it's basically just like blank. Well, it's not blank, but it's like everything is in it, but you just have to put in like things that I couldn't put in for you. Like I don't know your plant's name. I don't know the initial day of the week you're starting on, stuff like that. So you're gonna copy this, including the comments at the top because those are important. Control C. It's not elegant, but it does the job. And then you have all the code. And it's not going to throw any errors for me because I already have all the libraries installed, but these comments at the top pretty much tell you what libraries that you're missing and what you need. So you need like Wi-Fi scanner for the Wi-Fi module that I recently added, Moment.js for the time, and Dotenv, SnewRap, and Snowstorm are actually going to be added, hopefully, already if you follow the correct steps. Um, and then yeah, and then Johnny 5, which is the Arduino library that I've been using, and I'll explain that in a little bit. So after you do that, I'm going to take you here. This is the website. I'll put all these links on the website under this video. It basically this link shows you how to create a Reddit bot on Reddit and everything. But what are the whys? This isn't very specific in a few ways. One way is that it doesn't tell you that you need to make a separate account to do this, or else if you do this on your main account, like if I did this on Cdorn01, which is my Reddit account, and I made this bot and I put the code and I put like this client ID and this client secret were on my main account, and I put those in my code on Visual Studio down here, then I would end up the bot account when like it replied to messages for voting would end up being my account, which is not what you want because that is just messed up and it could mess up a few things. So you have to make a separate account for that. And also, I'll get to that in a sec actually. So this is what I'm talking about. Like if you follow these instructions, you should have SnooWrap, SnooStorm, Do10 already installed, so you don't need to do that. But you can ignore the $sign. I don't know why they always put that. It's not necessary. And then with this, with the client ID, secret user and password, it says put it in a .env file, but if you're putting it on the Raspberry Pi, do not do that because it doesn't. The Raspberry Pi just doesn't read it the right way. It basically just throws an error and says there's no file defined as this, so it just doesn't work basically. The rest of this is just explaining the code that I've already put in for you guys. So feel free to read this if you want to understand what I did, and if you want to change it a little bit and make it the project your own. After that, that's pretty much it for the code, honestly. Like, that is your code. And then once you buy, here, I'm going to show you a few things actually. Once you buy the Raspberry Pi and you set up the whole system, you're going to want to download an app called Putty, which basically is a quote unquote headless way to control a Raspberry Pi. You basically get its IP address, but you can Google how to find a Raspberry Pi's IP address. It's really easy. You put it in here, you put the port it's plugged in to. It's like really straightforward. It's usually port 22. And then you press open with and make sure it's pressed on SSH. And then you have to download or install this library on your Raspberry Pi called PM2. So basically, once you're in headless, um, once you're in headless mode, I don't know where to find this actually. Yeah, I mean you can just look it up and find a bunch of places to download PM2. Here. Yeah, here it is. Yeah. Like once you install PM2, which is basically a way to run JavaScript files, it's just a node package and you can install it on your Raspberry Pi. There's a bunch of tutorial videos on that. I'm not really covering that in this because this is more of like getting your code set up and what to buy, and there's like about 40 tutorials online to how to set up your Raspberry Pi in headless mode and run a Reddit bot. Actually, if you look up this exact thing, um, it's like a Discord bot on Raspberry Pi for an idiot's guide. It's this. Hosting episode number 1, Raspberry Pi, an idiot's guide. If you watch this video, I'm just gonna click on it. It's this video. It's really good, and I think it follows with a website. Yeah, it says Discord bot, but since it's a JavaScript file, it really doesn't matter. It's going to tell you how to download FileZilla, which is the way to upload files to your Raspberry Pi. It's going to tell you how to use Putty. This is I'll put this link on the website as well. This is how once you set up the Raspberry Pi, um, that's really how it goes. It's really not that bad. And then after that, pretty much this is just like the different parts. If you want to be able to do the soil moisture sensor, you're gonna have to buy this kit with the LCD screen. It's not really necessary if you don't want to do soil moisture on a screen because you don't only need this. You also need a live stream camera, which is expensive. So or unless you want to use Twitch, there's a bunch of ways to get around it. But like that's really this kit is only if you want to use the LCD moisture sensor, or if you don't want to do that, you can just buy a regular Arduino for the relay itself and the turning on and off the water. Okay, so speaking of that, you're gonna want to buy a couple of things. You're gonna want to buy one of these, and speaking of Tyler, Tyler's gonna help us with this. You want to buy a Raspberry Pi, an IoT relay, a breadboard and jumper wires, an air pump, and tubing and a mason jar. These are the main parts. He uses the Raspberry Pi. Um, he uses the Raspberry Pi to turn it on and off the pump as well. But I use an Arduino because honestly, with JavaScript, it's so much easier and so much simpler. Requires a lot less wires and just requires turning an LED on and off on the Arduino. So what I do is I have an Arduino, and on pin 13 on the Arduino, I have that plugged into the positive on the relay, and I have the ground right next to pin 13 plugged into the negative. So that's my whole setup. And then the Arduino is plugged into the Raspberry Pi, which has the code on it, which runs the bot. And then you plug the air pump into the relay, which has a tube, which is plugged into the water supply. It's all really not that bad. So in the end, it's really up to you guys how you want to do this, but this is just my suggestions. So I'll put the links below, and this is the video on how to set up the code and everything, and the things to buy. You can use Tyler's website for what's to buy pretty much, but keep in mind, if you're using JavaScript and using the simpler approach that I do, you're not going to be using the GPIO pins and you're not going to be using PRA. You're going to be using JavaScript and SNU Wrap. So that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know if you have any questions.